Welcome to the Aesthetic Doctor Podcast. We don't shy away and keep secrets here. We empower you with education, telling you the truth about all things aesthetic medicine while encouraging you to be the best version of yourself. It's time to look great and feel good doing it. This is your host, mom, speaker, and board-certified physician, Dr. Judith Borger.
Hello, friends. This is Dr. Borger, and welcome to episode 100 of the Aesthetic Doctor Podcast. First of all, let us celebrate 100 episodes. It feels like an amazing, wonderful milestone when I think about how it started, and I want to thank every single one of you who has listened to one episode or all the way, anybody who's listened to all 100 episodes or anywhere in between, for listening, for tuning in, for letting me be seen, for letting me educate, and for letting me also use my voice. And in that process, really step into my own power, my sovereignty, and to do this passion project because it's meant for you. And I'm so grateful for each and every time you tune in and listen. That being said, I would love to get in touch with some of my listeners. So, it's interesting from this end, like you put this out in the universe and then you see the numbers, right? Oh, you have this many thousands of downloads, and some episodes do better than others. And there have been some really, really cool moments where I have been places and people have told me, oh my God, I listened to your podcast, or I listened to this episode of your podcast, and that means the world. So if you ever see me or meet me, please tell me what you want to hear more of and that you listen. And I would love to get to know you. I love connecting with people. That's really all what this is about. One of my purposes is to create connection, to create meaning. And other than that, contact me on Instagram, on Facebook, email me, or make a post that tags me at Dr. Borger on Instagram or a story, and I would love to connect. So thank you, everybody, for listening. I'm so excited to have achieved this milestone, to be a top 5% global podcast. That's really kind of incredible, and it's all due to you. That being said, in order to grow the podcast, thank you for tuning in for all of the future episodes, but please also help me by sharing, leaving a review on your favorite platform. I think Apple is the most impactful one, but Google, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere you listen, we would love a review because it bumps it further so that new people can discover us. Anyway, today, I want to talk about something that has really been a theme for me since the summer, and it's this idea of simplifying, of living this life that's more simple, that's more clear, to really just focus on the things that matter to me, and strip away the unnecessary stuff. For me, a lot of it is looking at all the things. It's about how I spend my time, right? The travel that I do, how I can maximize the time with my kids who are really the most important people in my life. And also my med spa, right? Are our offerings aligned? Which ones are in demand? Which ones are aligned with our core vision? Which ones are profitable? And sort of letting go of some of the noise in all the areas of my life. So let me know if this resonates with you, because I think it's really easy to kind of add. And sometimes not all the adding is helpful. And what we really need to do is strip away to do the things that really align with my vision. And in accordance with that, I have my brand, Dr. Jude. It's also trademarked as the Aesthetic Doctor, which is how this podcast came to be. And I love the podcast. But when I look at my offerings, not all of them resonate. So I have made the radical business decision by working with really clarifying by working with my coach, who I flew to London to see. I'm actually in London right now recording at the beautiful Great Scotland Yard Hotel. It's been a fabulous time, but I just spent a couple days in a one-on-one VIP intensive, and the idea really was like, what serves my purpose the most? Like, how do I want to simplify? How do I want to prioritize and really put my energy into the places that are most meaningful to me? And I mean, of course, I run a business, they have to sort of be profitable too. And that's what I set the goal of our one-on-one to be. For my coaching business, it's retreats. Like, I love the retreats, and I feel like it's where my purpose comes alive. I love creating this transformation, the in-person connection, the sisterhood. It's just magic every single time. And when I look at all of my offerings, the retreats are the thing that stand out as what I really think aligns best with my mission in the world, with my values, with what I want to do. So I've made the radical decision to, starting from when this is recorded, like, we're going to redesign the website and we're going to drop pretty much every other offer that's not a retreat, because the retreats are where I feel like my mission is most deeply being fulfilled, where I want to focus my energy, where the transformation happens, where the magic happens, where my healing happens. And so for the Aesthetic Doctor, Dr. Jude brand, in 2026, we're going to do retreats, and then I'm going to do some very limited high-level one-on-ones. So if you want to do a one-on-one with me, just know it's going to focus on transformation of you, on healing. It's going to be a combination of heart healing and coaching and strategy. It's all the things I believe in, but it's going to be very limited and very high-end. And then everything else I'm going to do are retreats. I'm doing my Lux Reclamation Retreat, which is a women's empowerment and wellness retreat. The incredible Miraval Austin at the end of April. I mean, that is, I think, my flagship kind of retreat. It's got great CME. It's got some of the best coaches in the world, and you're going to leave transformed, I promise you. And then I'm going to do 2 of the Minds and Mountains, which are my ketamine deep healing retreats, where we combine ketamine and heart healing and breath work and yoga and nature for this like deep inner journey in the North Carolina mountains. They're obviously very different retreats, and they both heal, they both create connection, they both create change, and they are what aligns with my mission and what I love doing also. So I want to focus my energy on this. As I said, there'll be some very limited one-on-one with me, and then that's going to be the brand. And it fully aligns, right, without all of the unnecessary other offers. So the other thing I did in preparation of this podcast is I kind of thought a little bit about the philosophy of simplicity. And it's really this idea of healing as the art of subtraction. And I talk about this in most of my teachings and a lot of my workshops as well, because we live in a world that rewards like accumulation, right? We accumulate things, roles, achievements, identity. And so simplicity is like this sort of almost like radical act of self-leadership. And when I think about the journey of simplicity, and I've thought about this now since I was in Spain this summer, and I'm only recording this podcast months and months later, because I really wanted to be clear about what simplicity means. And for me, simplicity is not only about doing less, but it's about being more true. So it's really the art of removing what's no longer essential, so that what remains is pure, powerful, and peaceful. And so it's both a philosophical and emotional premise. It's a refinement of how we think and a reclamation of how we live. So that's really what I've been going through the last couple of months, is to really spent a lot of time in meditation, in self-exploration, in journaling, and working with my coaches about what is it that I really, at my deepest, truest core want. And I invite you to do the same. And there's a lot of philosophical principles about simplicity. And really, also, I'm a Martha Beck trained coach, and one of her premises is also that we subtract, we don't add, right? We subtract what no longer serves us, we subtract what's harmful, and we create this space and this openness where then positivity and joy and love can flow in, because most of us don't need more, we kind of need less. And some of the philosophies of simplifying the mind are really inspired by Zen almost, which is this principle that teaches that peace isn't found in adding more practices or titles, but in stripping away the unnecessary, right? It's the clarity through subtraction. And I have always also, like I said, been taught that in my Martha Beck coaching as a core principle on how to really coach and help somebody. And like a Zen garden, simplicity sort of is a cultivated practice. Every rake stroke that they do is an act of discernment. And in leadership and in showing up in the world, to me, that looks like moving from reactivity to presence, from noise to knowing. And if it's like sort of simplicity as the essence of brilliance. And when we really reflect on that, and one of the things that we could journal on, that I have journaled on, or that I would invite you to journal on if you want to come on this journey with me, is to sort of reflect on what can I remove that no longer serves my clarity. And then the other thing to do with that is that complexity, and especially emotional complexity, often arises from trying to manage what isn't ours to manage, right? Other people's perceptions, timing, or approval. That is the controllables, and that's more of an emotional simplicity. The let them theory, that's very popular by Mel Robbins. And it's really based on Stoicism and the principles of Stoicism, where we focus only what lies within our control, our thoughts, our words, our energy, and our actions. And we let go of trying to manage what isn't ours. And that kind of really allows us to regain inner calm. It allows us to regain agency. And it's where simplification is sovereignty. One of the practices for that is to really release things that you cannot control, and really take only accountability for yourself. This is something that also came up in one of my recent healing retreats, and it was a huge sort of aha moment for one of our participants when she had sort of felt very responsible for somebody else's behavior, when really she controls her reactions, how she shows up, but not how that makes anybody else feel. And again, she was not being abusive. She was not doing any of that. She was just, again, owning what isn't hers to own. And when I thought about what is it that I want to focus on, I really thought about existentialism in thought and action. And this is philosophy that draws from modern minimalism and essentialism. And it's really inviting the question, what is truly essential to my purpose? It's not about being more productive. It's about purity of intention. And like I said earlier, focusing my energy where my purpose lies, where I feel my greatest good lies. And it's in business, like in relationships and in personal identity. It's for me, it was clarifying, what do I want to put my coaching business focus on, and its retreats with some one-on-one. And really, what it does is this essentialist mindset prevents diffusion of energy and restores alignment, sending your energy where you believe you want to send it versus being scattered all over the place and then not having enough power and energy left. Because we know that where our focus goes, where our energy goes, that the power of that. And in that sense, every no almost becomes sacred because it protects your yes, it protects your energy for what deeply matters. Like I said earlier, emotional complexity sometimes also comes from holding onto roles, expectations, or stories that once kept us safe, but now keep us small. And you all know that I'm so into healing, that I'm so into emotional decluttering, and that self-image is one of the things that is like a core principle and what I believe about healing, about the self, that it defines everything. Here's a small plug. I wrote a chapter in a book, and it's an incredible book entitled When Hearts Heal. Natasha Bray was in it. Joe Vitale, who's well known, wrote part of the foreword for it. And I wrote a chapter about the heart of self-image, and it's all about this. It's about how our self-image determines how we show up in the world and how important healing the heart is to our self-image. So I would love to invite you to read the entire book, but of course my chapter. And there's brilliant authors in there. Natasha Bray put the book together and wrote a chapter in it. She's wonderful. She's my coach. So just throwing this in here. But the idea is that healing your self-image and simplifying the self is a healing act. And it's a reclamation of coherence and a reclamation of who you really are. Because you show up and you, again, have clarity. You don't do things because of subconscious triggers, because you react from past trauma, or because there's these things that you believe about yourself. It is really the idea of when your inner identity, your values, your actions, and your self-image aligns, emotional peace follows. And simplicity in your self-image, even though nobody's self-image is truly simple. When I think about simplicity, I think about emotional congruence, when what you feel, believe, and express finally match. And you get rid of this like emotional clutter, right? Because some of the emotional clutter is that unhealed trauma that you're still holding on to. So simplifying the self happens through healing, and it's a healing act. And again, I am a heart healing practitioner. It's changed my life, and it will change yours if you get the chance to do it. But again, as a journal prompt or as something to consider as you listen to this podcast, one of the things you could think about is what emotions or narratives have become emotional clutter that you might want to examine, heal, release. And then on the flip side, what truth feels simple but powerful? And again, peace is found also not in the absence of noise, but in the clarity of boundaries. So when we think about boundaries as energetic simplicity, boundaries are not barriers, they're filters. They simplify your energy by clarifying what is and isn't yours to carry. When I think of myself as an emotionally simplified leader, I know that every boundary protects my peace. And that is part of where my power lies. And as we heal, when we strip away external validation, performative success, inherited beliefs, what remains is your true, elegant core. And that's the unshakable essence of who you are. And that is really the simplicity of simplifying and unifying and doing the healing, and the simplicity really of a unified self-image. You become one whole you. You become who you really are. And I always talk about healing as the ultimate luxury. And when we think about simplifying in that process, healing as a luxury through simplifying, which is a process I've been on, really means creating spaciousness, because you create spaciousness in your mind, in your schedule, in where you put your energy, and then your authentic self has room to breathe, has room to be, has room to play. So, for me, simplicity is not the absence of richness. It's the presence of essence. It's sort of that quiet power, that incredible power that comes when every part of you, mind, body, purpose, and heart, is in alignment, is in harmony. So really, I've gone through this process of simplifying, and simplifying for me is really to return home to myself and re-clarify how I want to spend my energy, my time, and how I can live a simple life that is most in alignment who I am in my healed form, in my essence. And for me, that truly is the highest form of luxury. So, to integrate, let me give you just a couple of steps to close. So, you could, number one, declutter the mind and begin each week by asking what feels heavy or overcomplicated. Again, turtle steps. You start by simplifying one process, one plan, or one belief. Number two, you clarify your energy. Notice where your emotional energy leaks. Simplify by closing loops, forgiving, delegating, and letting go of all the stuff that's really not yours to carry. Let people's issues be their issues. And then number three is the curate your identity. And that's the step I've really been on, is align your self-image with your present truth, not your past roles, because we all evolve. And this is the most elegant form of sovereignty, of self-leadership, and really of power. That is my reflection and my philosophies currently on simplicity. And it is really about thinking about your mind as well as your self-image, which is one of my favorite topics. And healing is the art of subtraction when we think about simplicity. And then, as always, I believe that healing is the ultimate form of luxury. I wish you all a most beautiful, most joyous day and week, and thank you again for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Aesthetic Doctor podcast with Dr. Judith Borger. We'd love to connect with you outside of the show. Follow Dr. Borger on Instagram at Dr. Borger, and find more online and ways to work with Dr. Borger at www.theaestheticdoctor.com. Until next time, be well.